thanks to all of you for being here. This is a very important panel. It'll affect all of us in some way or the other, directly, indirectly, someone we know, a colleague or a loved one, which is healthcare and how, in this case, AI can help take it to the next level. So we have three outstanding panelists here from Jivi AI, from BrainSightAI, and from Cloudphysician. And I'm going to ask them maybe 2-3 rounds of questions. My first question to all the speakers is I'm going to ask each of them to talk about maybe 1 or 2 key areas where AI is moving the needle in healthcare in each of their respective domains. Maybe a trend, a use case, an example, some metrics, and so on. So why don't we begin with you, Ankur?
Great. Thank you so much for the opportunity. GV is basically building an AI doctor for 8 billion people. We started last year. We already have 2.5 million users from 200 countries. And one common pattern that we are seeing and where the trends are going is that people want to track themselves 24/7, especially the younger generation. They have multiple devices like a smart ring, a smart watch. They're inundated with data, but they don't know what to do. There is no intelligence which can connect the dots. And this is where GV is coming into the picture, which is bringing this super intelligence on top of their data and predicting what's going to happen in their health.
That's a brilliant insight. Yes, the younger generation is completely plugged in all the time, and this is part of their lifestyle. So you got a very good long runway ahead of you. That's great. Let's turn now to Laina. Laina, in your case, where is AI really helping, impacting?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Laina. I'm the founder CEO of BrainSightAI, where we essentially do advanced brain mapping. We are in a very niche space. We are one of 3 worldwide companies doing this kind of work. And what I believe is a trend is that the kind of work that we do and what we've seen neuroradiologists do is work on very hard clinical problems which don't have a solution. So the fact that we work in psychiatry, which doesn't have any biomarkers right now. So the fact that this kind of imaging is a marker. We work in dementia, and there's no early diagnosis for dementia. We work in neurosurgery, where functional mapping of the brain is very hard for most patients. So what we've seen in AI is these kind of hard problems being solved by AI, and I find that very, very heartening. And I think doctors also do, right? Like they can use this to be able to kind of guide their patients better.
Yeah. So it's heartening that AI is helping the mind. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. So Dhruv, let's hear about Cloudphysician and what you guys are doing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dhruv Joshi. I'm a physician myself. I'm a pulmonologist and an ICU doctor. I used to be here a doctor. I started my medical career in Bangalore, then moved to the US, worked as a doctor there for many years, and then came back to India to start Cloudphysician 8 years ago. Just talking about how AI is moving the needle in our space, we focus primarily in the inpatient space. So think about inpatient as hospitals, right? So how can we help hospitals and how can we help patients who are admitted into hospitals get better care? And one of the things with AI in our particular space is that, in healthcare, one of the things that we should all understand is that context is everything. Unlike math or coding or where you have a fixed variable, in healthcare one symptom can mean 10 different things, right? You asked me for an example. I'll give you an example. So for example, a patient's heart rate can be 120. Now that is abnormal. A heart rate should be less than 100. Now the patient's heart rate can be 120 because the patient is coughing. It can be because the patient is in pain. It can be because the patient is having some abnormality in their breathing. It can be because the patient is moving, right? So context is everything, because the treatment for all of those is completely different. So you can't just treat a heart rate of 120. You need to have the context of what is happening at that time. And so in this particular instance, this is where we come in. We build video AI agents that use a video camera to detect what's happening with the patient in real time. So we build an agent that will tell you that, hey, this patient is in pain, or this patient is having some breathing abnormality, or this patient is moving too much. And that is why the patient's heart rate is 120. Now that gives you context. That gives you the ability to now make a decision on what next needs to happen with this patient. And that's key, because without that, you're completely dependent on a human being, a nurse or a doctor, being at that bedside to make that determination. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we cannot have a doctor or a nurse standing at the bedside of every patient 24/7. That's the reality we live in. And that is a universal reality. That was in a hospital in India or a hospital in the US. That's the same problem. And now we live in a world where we can actually solve for that.
That's amazing. Great. I've got one more round of questions for them, and then let's hear from you. My next question is for Ankur from Jivi AI, which is healthcare is a very regulated kind of a space, and you need to have many partners to be able to succeed properly over here. Tech, government, policy, medical professionals, and so on. How are you managing this whole complex thing? You're getting all this data, but are there some regulatory issues you have to deal with? Who are some partners that are doing to reach out to customers, channels, and so on?
Prior to GV, I was at fintech, so that is also very regulatory. But after joining or after entering health tech, fintech looks like very easy from a regulation perspective. See, there are 2 or 3 kinds of main regulations in healthcare, right? One is data privacy. Is paramount. You don't share your patient's data, period. So you need to build all the HIPAA compliance and all that. There is one. Second, which is sort of golden standard for us, is the prescription has to be given by a doctor, by a registered doctor in that country. So we don't give a prescription. We don't tell you that, hey, take medicine XYZ. So these are the 2 main regulations in every country. After that, there are like lots of local nuances. So we make sure that we are complying with both these regulations. If we are doing that, then we are good.
Then you're in a very different space, but what are some of the policy regulatory issues you come up with?
As I said, we do brain mapping, and for a very, very niche segment like neurosurgery and psychiatry. And I think we had to, for the first 5 years, really kind of work on proving the efficacy of what we do. We worked with hospitals like St. John's to be able to show the efficacy of what we do. We had to, like he said, work on a lot of privacy and health regulations with the ongoing, like the DPDP Act, etc. We have to work with that. We are now going through our whole FDA process. So there's like a whole bunch of regulations. I think for a healthcare company, if anybody of you is trying it out, please assume that only year 5.5 is when you will actually start even coming to market, because you have to prove yourself in all of these ways before you even start. So yeah,
that's a very important cautionary note. It's great to be inspired by all this, but be prepared to be patient for the long haul. My next question is for Dhruv. There's a lot of talk now about being AI native, AI first, etc. So my question for you is for new hospitals that are coming up, or if earlier hospitals could have been AI embedded, with AI embedded at the core, how would they be different? And what should future guys be looking at in this space?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So I think we need to sort of reimagine the entire stack of how AI is used, right? I think one of the things that we need to think differently is, let's not just try to bolt on AI to an existing system, because you're just going to perhaps add to inefficiencies. So you need to sort of create an efficient system from the ground up. And to create an efficient system, you need multimodal data, right? So you need data from every sort of place possible. So I think some of the things, we've seen some changes where hospitals are getting more and more digitized, their adoption of EMRs and so forth, though I think there's a lot of room yet for improvement in those spaces. But if you were starting a hospital now, or you were getting into the space right now, and we have actually some organizations, some companies that are doing that, just going completely digital native first, right? Making sure that all data is available. You get a 360-degree view of a patient, including video, which is what I was talking about, which is an area that we heavily rely on, because that's a very, very rich medium, right? Video is a very rich medium. Picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So it's perhaps the richest medium that you can find, that gives you context of what's happening. So in addition to having devices and medical records, adding video as a data source is probably key.
Almost out of time. I'm going to ask each of you to just give 1 or 2 sentence tips to the audience on how to be a good leader as a founder. Not just a techie or some founder, but a good leader.
Any founders here?
Yeah, lots.
Oh yeah, plenty of founders. Don't get into healthcare unless you're mission driven. That would be my advice to you. The amount of resilience you'll need here is perhaps higher than most other sectors, you'll get, it's very gratifying, but you need to have that level of resilience. The only way that resilience comes is if you're mission driven. That's what I'd say. Otherwise, there are plenty of ways to be opportunistic, and in many other fields. Being opportunistic in healthcare is perhaps not advisable.
Laina, a tip on talent, how to manage the war for talent.
Wow, that's a so we have a really multidisciplinary team, like neuroscientists and computational neuroscientists and cloud and AI engineers. I think my one tip for managing such a interdisciplinary team is really kind of having an open mind, because each person kind of comes with such different viewpoints on how they look at a problem. So kind of creating communications between team members which allow for differences, and I think that has kept us in good stead over the past 5.5 years, because when you come and you talk to our team, you will hear 10 different views in the space of 5 minutes on what needs to be done, and everything from radiologists speaking in a certain way to neurosurgeons speaking in a certain way to neuroscientists speaking in a certain way to engineers saying that they'll change the healthcare system, which is not going to happen. But I guess all of them have these really strong views and they all come together, but it really leads to a lot of fun and good conversations. So yeah, that's
Ankur, you have the last word in 5 seconds. How do you keep up with tech trends? A tip for them on how to keep up with so much development in this space. How do you manage it?
Let me give you the context on the healthcare side.
Yeah.
As she was saying, there are lots of opinionated or opinions. But if you're building a healthcare company, listen to a doctor in the room. That is sort of the golden truth that I have. Because as engineers, we will always think of hacks or technology will solve. But it's very, very difficult to understand a doctor's mind. And if you're building technology or as an employee or as a founder, always listen to doctor who is in the room. In fact, our first hire was a doctor because of that.
Yeah. Can I add?
Yeah,
Get your engineers to be in the hospital. I think that is when, and be in operating rooms and get them to be actually figuring out how to serve doctors. Just as an anecdote, we had our early employees go there, and I think it totally changed how they think about the healthcare system.
So leave the lab, leave the laptop, and go to where the
hospital,
patients are.
yes.
Yeah. A big round of applause, please, for 3 outstanding speakers. Fantastic discussion.